Hello everyone. This session is continuation to .NET Core Web API, the CRUD temp data. So I would recommend you to go through this link before continuing this session. So in the previous session, just to summarize, we have created web APIs for with CRUD operations: insert, update, delete, and get all using the temp data. So now in this session, we are going to do with the real database SQL Server. So so before doing that, I'm going to create a new uh, database and tables to our database. So I'm going to create a new database. Example, Web API database. You can give your own name, it doesn't matter. So I'm creating a database now, WebApiDB, and click OK. And right click on new query. I have the SQL scripts for creating and inserting just to save some time. Right. So we have tier department table and we have employee table. In the department table, ID is primary key, and in employee table, ID is primary key, and we have referenced the foreign key as department ID. You can see the department table on the foreign key, and I'm saying ID of the department table will be my foreign key to this department ID, right? So, and I also did identity. That means whenever you insert a new record, ID will be automatically incremented. So that you don't need to specify in your insert columns and values. You don't need to add when you're inserting a new record into your table. You don't need to add the ID value, so that it automatically will take care. The identity will take care of inserting automatical numbers. Okay. So I'm going to create a new data department. Okay. I'm inserting 3 rows to it. You can see the 3 rows. I can also do select star from department. Oh, spelling is wrong. See, the 3 rows got inserted and did not pass ID, but I automatically the ID got incremented because of this identity. Okay, now I'm going to do create employee table and inserting 3 rows to the employee table. And I'll do similarly select star from employee, which should give me 3 rows, right? Yeah, this is about inserting create table and inserting records into the table. So now I'm going to reference this database in my web API, right? So before going into your web API, I'll just give I'll communicate the database through entity framework through DataAccessLayer. So in the so the entity framework, what is entity framework? Entity framework core is the new version of after EF6. It is open source, lightweight, and it is an object relational mapping. Actually, it's mapping means mapping your tables to your models and getting the data. It is in the legacy way we used to do ADO.NET to connect to the database. So the modern way to communicate to databases through entity framework. I will also try to give another video for communicating with ADO.NET to the database. But in this session, we are going to do only with entity framework. So you can see there are different types of entity framework versions. Initially, they made it with the EF Core supports these frameworks. So this EF Core supports .NET Core applications, Web API, console, etc. Whereas EF Core supports for in .NET 4.5, if you use EF Core, it will only support to Windows. So these are some specific things, right? So yeah, so we'll only focus on this ASP.NET Core communicating to Windows, Mac, Linux, right? Since it is open source, it can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. And there are some steps to installation as well. But I have some notes too. So We need to add entity. We need to install the package of entity framework to our data access layer. So to install it, right click on data access layer and click on manage NuGet packages. Okay, and click on browse. So we need to install. Yeah. So Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.SqlServer, we need this, and just click install. Okay, this got installed, and now I'm going to install another one, other NuGet also, and that is for scaffolding. Scaffolding means converting your. We need to run some command to generate the models, so we do use this tools. Application is running somehow. I don't. Yeah. So we need entity framework core.tools. Uh, so we need these two softwares to run the entity framework. Just remember, and I accept. Okay. Now if you go to install section and clear this, you can see these two got installed successfully. So now I'm going to extract the database which we just created in the SQL Server. So what will happen is these department tables will be converted to the models. Models means class files, because those are kind of entities, right? I'll create a folder called models just to make it clean architecture. Okay, so I'll open a NuGet package manager, NuGet package manager, and package manage console. Yeah, so here there is a command to run. Yeah, so what is this means is Scaffold-DbContext is a command which is provided by this one, Microsoft Entity Core.tools. Okay, so we are saying we need to put a connection string. We are saying that which database that tables needs to be converted as model. So if you see here, we have just click on properties, connect, and you can see this connection string. So whatever connection string you have here, you need to put it in the here LocalDB MySQL local database. And what is the database you just created for creating tables? WebAPIDB, right? You need to call this. Let's go here and change this WebAPIDB, right? And this remains same because this is a inbuilt thing syntax which we need to put, and we are saying that Microsoft Entity Framework Core.SqlServer, this should remain same, and output dir models. Actually, yeah, we don't need this models to be created automatically. This command will get created. So I am deleting this models here because this models will because of this OutputDir command, the models will create automatically. And we are saying what project. F means force. You just ignore this. Project means which project we want that models to be generated. We are saying so here this is in data access layer project. Just copy that project and remove this. and data access layer. Okay. And now we need to name it as context. This API EmployeeDB context. Just change whatever you want. You can put whatever name you want. So now I click enter. I should extract data, table data from this schema, from this tables. So now I have two tables here, department and employee. So these two tables will be converted as class files to my class files and create generates into here. And clicking enter, build started. Oh, I need to select the starter project. I just right click on that and set a starter project and also make you, yeah. Yep. Yep. See, the models got, yeah, the models folder is created into the data access layer. And you can see these these two models also got created, employee class and department class. Since we did set a starter project here just now, just for running the scaffold, we need to make this a starter project. So now we need to go back to our web host layer and presentation layer and just click on set a starter project, because when we are running our project, we need to have that, right? Yep. Yeah, this is about your Scaffold-DB context. Now we got our models created, employee class CS, and you can see initially the department is a parent table. So you can see ID name is created and you're saying collection. So that means one-to-many relationship. One department can have many employees. That means that's automatically Entity Framework took care of relationships, right? And in the employee.cs, you have ID, name, salary, department ID, and you have the foreign key of the department, right? So in DB context, this is automatically generated. We did not make changes to anything here. So here, if you see the schema, creatable schema got automatically added here, and it is saying is Unicode false, and it's saying for employee table there is a many relationship, one-to-many relationship, and also saying foreign key is this, and constraint name is this, right? We don't need to worry about all this. And when we generated scaffold, we automatically got this connection string added here. But the best practice is we need to read this from app settings.json, which is here. You see here, this we need to add connection string JSON property here and read it from there. We can reference some other articles for that. Yep, and I'm just saying this will be read from connection string. Yep. So now what we're gonna do, we need to add, since we in the previous video we accessed temporary data to get the data, right? So now what we're gonna do, we need to uh, reference that to your database. So it's so simple, using EmployeeDbContext. Whenever we need to call any databases or any third-party things, we need to use using, because this is very important for um, opening and disposing of your DB context will take care of using. So this is a syntax for connecting to your database. Okay. Yeah. So now what I'm gonna do, it's very simple. We don't need to write any SQL queries also. The entity framework is very smart enough to employees, right? and to use await. Yeah, we need to use toList async to retrieve the employees. So now if you see, this object is in models.employees, right? This is inside the models.employees. So we need to convert to our domain models. List employee domain models equal to new list. Or since this is conflicting with your original model with this model, you just make domain layer.employees. Okay. So now what we're gonna do, we need to loop through this. We need to add this to domain models dot. So as we discussed in our C# link videos, right? So if you want to add any new object to your list, you need to do this way, right? ID equal to emp.id. Name equal to emp.name. emp. Oh, in our database, we created a number. This is higher data type, right? Yep. Yep. So we remember, we convert, if you want to convert the higher data type to lower data type, this is the way. So left side is expecting decimal, but in our database, we are getting integer. So we are converting that to int 32. Let's see. Yeah, after for each, what we need to do, we need to return domain models. We need to add domain layer dot employee here also. Or instead of changing here, right, just change everything to, we can change your object to employee DTO. You can just rename here, right click rename and change employee DTO like this, which will change in all places. and we don't need domain layer now. Wherever you're seeing error, right, you just yep, that's it. So as soon as when I renamed the employee DTO, because it was conflicting with employee here and entity framework this employee. So that's why I had to rename this to employee DTO. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do, yeah, since my entity framework changes are done for this one, get employees, I'll run this app and see if you're getting employees or not, since we already inserted 3 rows in this table. Come on, come on, come on. Yep. So I'll call get all employees and see if it is working. See, awesome. 3 rows which are coming from database now. So we are no longer getting data from our temp data for get all employees. See, so currently we are getting only 3 rows, 3 properties, right? Because we didn't had department ID added to our property. So what we need to do, we need to go to our employee DTO and add one more property, department ID. Okay. So now in the employee repository, after salary, since we are mapping our database employees object to our domain models, we need to add one more property here, just control space, emp.department ID. That's it. Since this department ID is already available in this, where these employees are coming from, we are getting this from database, right? Now if we run, we should get department ID also. So in previous video, if for each run we had to insert employee because that was handling temp data, right? So here we don't need, because in database that records are already stored. See, department ID is also coming now, right? So now what we're going to do, we will apply that DB context to insert employee, update employee, similar to that, right? So these 2 lines are common. So we'll comment out this temp data. We need one more floor bracket here. Yep. So now what we need to do, we need to map our domain models to our DB context models so that it will insert the record into your database, right? Yeah. So what we're gonna do, var DB model equal to new employee we don't need to mention ID because the ID will be take care of automatically, right? Employee.name and salary equal to employee dot. Yeah, so we will convert our, since this our domain model salary is in decimal, right? We'll change it to int because we'll make it consistent with our database. So this, since we inserted, Since we added column salary called int, we should change that salary column to integer here as well. Okay, so that we can also remove this conversion which we did before, because now these two data types matches, right? Or since we made not null nullable in our database, that's why it is coming integer data type int question mark. If you see, into question mark means nullable int. So but here if you see int, so we need to make similar thing here. Whatever data type we have in our database, we also do the same thing in our domain models. Yep. Yeah, here now department ID equal to employee dot department ID. Yeah. So now we're going to add DbContext dot add employees dot add DB model. Okay, after we do add, just assume this DbContext employees is nothing but list of employees. Just assume this as link, but it's not link. I mean, it's kind of link, but it is also inserting into our database. So now after we add, for reading, we don't need to do DbContext dot save changes, but for only add, we need to do save changes async, right? So here, when we are reading it, right, we don't need to use this save changes, because we are not inserting or updating anything or deleting anything into your database. So we are adding it. So at this point, if you don't do this, it will just add it to your link object, but it will not save your database. Yeah. So we need to do this DbContext.save changes so that the data will get inserted into your database, right? What you're doing here, we are just converting a domain model to your data model. So I'll put a breakpoint just for your understanding. Yep, now I'm going to insert employee, right? As we discussed, we don't need to pass ID. KAMAL 2, okay. Department ID 1. KAMAL 2 will be department ID 1 now. Yeah, we got this breakpoint hit here. So at this point, DbContext employee. So if you, what we did here, we converted domain model to your DB model. Here, what we did, converted DB model to your domain model. For getting right, we do converting domain model to, sorry, for reading, we convert data model to DB model. So here, sorry, what did I say? Sorry. So for reading, convert DB model to domain model. For inserts, convert domain model to domain model to DB model. So this is opposite. So we convert here domain model is what? This one, employee DTO is our domain model. DB model is employees. This is your DB models, right? If you get confused, you just click on F12 and see where is your DB model. This is in DB model, right? And here, if you do F12, this is in domain model. See domain layer, right? Yeah. So we'll just go to breakpoint. Where was it? Breakpoint here, right? So we converted domain model to DB model here, so that just think of it, right? So we need to insert the record such a way that DB understands. So that means we need to convert domain model to DB model. So at this point, if I click F10, yeah. So this line not yet executed, but if you do select start from employees, you still see 3 records. So, but as soon as I click execute this line, I think this got hurt something. Yeah. So as soon as I executed that line, see this new record got inserted. So that means without this line, the database changes will not be applied. Even though you see the employee count increased here, but until you execute this line, it will not insert into your database. So now I'm going to do for update also. Same thing. We'll do for delete first. Yeah. First, we need to retrieve the ID. Employee object for that ID. What I'm gonna do, DbContext dot employees dot first default. We can use find async or first default async, anything. It is similar to link, right? In link we use first default. In DbContext we use first default async. Just async will be applied. Just that's it. That's the main difference. And now we need to remove that. Since we also removed, we need to update the save changes async. Okay. We'll also do for update similarly. This is with temp data, right? Just comment out this junk. Yeah, here we need to do employee.id and we need to map like we did here, right? We need to map our I'm sorry. Since we retrieved employee here, we just do find employee dot name equal to employee dot name. Find employee dot and equal to employee dot and here we need to instead of remove we do update. Yeah, that's it. We did for delete employees and now we do for get single employee instead of list of employees, right? When we pass employee ID, we need to retrieve only one object instead of all objects, right? So here, so instead of two list, we just do first or default async. Dot. So here we don't need a list, right? Because this return type is only employee object. It's not any list of employees, right? This is one single object. Just copy this and remove this code. Just map whatever you want. Department ID equal to employee department ID equal to yes. That's it. Our entity framework design part is done. So in previous video we did change in all layers, but this video we only need to change in employee repository, and I just converted employee class to employee DTO class by just right clicking on employee rename. So only that part is pending for you. Yeah. So now I removed all temp data access from the repository. You can see all I commented out temp data and pointed to real database, right? So if I run the app, I should see all CRUD operations working. CRUD means insert, update, delete, get. Okay, so we'll do get all one by one. Okay. Yeah, we got all res records. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we do get employee. We just pass ID 1. See, we got this one. If we pass employee ID which is not existing database, I'm passing 9 since there is no ID 9 in this database. See, object reference null, that means it's throwing an exception because there is no 9 exist, right? We need to handle that for null condition. Insert employee, I'll just insert employee here. KAMAL 3, salary 25,000, department 2, success response. So now I do get all again, I should see KAMAL 3 in department 2. Okay. Get employees done, get all is done, and insert employees done. I'll do update now. I'll just take one. I'll take KAMAL 3 and change 25,000 to 35,000 salary. Let's copy that object and paste it here. And that speed. 200 response. So if we do get all, see 25,000 to 30,000. So you should see the same things in here. KAMAL 3 got 35,000. So update is done. Now I'm going to do delete. So I'll pick a ID which is 5. I'll try to delete 5. Done, success. So now if I query my database, select this row should be deleted, right? See, it's done. Yeah, that's it for this session. If anyone has any questions, you can post a comment. I'll reply to your message. Yeah, thanks everyone. Hope this video helps. I will also add this project, the Visual Studio project, to the link, the Google Drive link to the video. As I also did attach video for previous session for the sample project. I also mentioned what topics I covered in the previous video. Similarly, I will do the same thing in this current video. I will add the sample project to this project to the description as well. You can download it. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.